Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my busy little shop. On today's episode of What's on My Workbench, we're going to do a little bit of a tool restoration video. I'm not sure if this was originally being used for leather work or not, but I really like this style of a hammer for doing leather work. And it's an older hammer. It's really in abused condition here. The face of the hammer is really severely dimpled, and you don't want to use that on leather work. If you were striking tools, I suppose, but we're going to use this to set stitch lines and multiple other things, but it's all going to be in the finishing of leather process. So I will need to resurface the face of this to get it back into pristine condition. Someone added this handle here at one point. They got a couple popsicle sticks crammed in there to somewhat tighten that up. I've got an old handle over here I'm going to modify to go into this hammer as well. So I'm going to take these work surfaces on here. I'm not going to polish up every bit of this, but we're going to return this to use. And I'll do some limited talking on this, try to keep the video somewhat short and let you follow along the process. I appreciate you taking time to be within the shop today. So yeah, I'll get you a closer look here at the head of that hammer. You can see it's really been abused, and it's dirty. It's got, I don't know if it's varnish or what's on there. Maybe someone put some linseed oil on all of it, but we're going to get this trued up, cleaned up, and return to use. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knock this handle out of there. I'm not going to use that handle, so I don't need to be gentle with it. And I say I keep a lot of them. You know what? I'll throw it in the bucket over here. I actually have a project in mind that might work for. So the first thing I want to do is to get this head cleaned up. And I'm not going to polish all these areas here, but I am going to true up the back of this and the face here. And so the first thing I want to do is I'll clean some of these areas here that I don't think I'll end up polishing. So I'm just going to put on a little bit of music here. I'll let you follow along in the process, and we'll see where this leads us today. Okay, so I've cleaned up this area here and around here. Those are going to be the two areas that I plan to leave in their cast state, this roughness here. The rest of this will get polished up by the time I'm done. We'll go over here in the vise, and I need to start working on, let's see, I got to decide where I'll work so that I have the other area to clamp. You know, now that I say that, I may end up leaving this the same on both sides. Let me clean this a little bit more here. And then we're going to go over onto the, in the vise here. And I'm going to work on the face of this tool. This is, it's full of dimples. It's fairly flat. I like it a little bit domed so that it doesn't leave any hard edges when you're working on leather. So I'll grab a file and we'll get over there and we'll start working on the face of this. All right, I'm not sure if you can see or not, but there's a lot of dimpling here from hammer strikes. So the first thing I need to do is I need to figure out how far down I need to file to get rid of those. Once I've got that set, then I will dome this or ease these edges where I want those. Got what looks like a crack there. Trying to work down through that. I think I've decided I'm going to leave this side and this side with the castings along with this neck area here. I'm going to file these flat on both sides. It's mainly for appearance for me. And then I will be filing to try to square that up. It may not be perfectly square, but let's work on that a little bit, I guess, before I start, because here's where I'm going to want to clamp it. So before I start there, let me work on this surface a little bit. clean this up, see what we're dealing with. Get this polishing compound off these other surfaces for one. So here we are. I think it's a nice improvement over where it was. I could probably spend another couple hours fine-tuning the sandpaper on this down before polishing it, but I think it looks pretty good. There's a few, you can see a few minute scratches, especially on these large faces here. But I think it looks pretty good. Do a little side-by-side here, or before and after. Let you see what it looks like. Well, there you go. What do you think? I think it's a big improvement. So we'll set this aside. Now I have a hammer handle here that is, quite frankly, it's not in much better shape. Let me grab my favorite hammer here. That's that one. If I'd received this before I purchased that, I don't know that I would have purchased that. This would do a great job. Before I had this hammer, I was doing everything with my ball peen hammer here. But the much smaller or sharper diameter here on that face, I got more dimples on the leather than I wanted. Most of the time that goes away, but I saw this one in Prescott, and this one's a Horseshoe brand hammer there, and I've been using that now for, I guess, 3 years and really like it. So like I said, if I had come across this before, I probably wouldn't have bought that. But I need to make a handle for this, and I'll need to get a smaller diameter there on this handle. And I want to seat it down here pretty closer to this shoulder. What was on here before set way up here, and it really should have been down here more, and remove this upper end. So what I'll need to do first is get this diameter right here that will fit in there. Once I do that, I will cut a groove here so I can set a proper wedge on this and get that set properly. And then assuming that I get it nestled down here where this swell starts, then I want a handle that's about the same length. So if I do that, then I need to take about an inch off the length here. With that in mind though, I think I'm gonna wait to remove that last bit until I get it set. If something goes wrong here and I need to move this point down further, because I don't need that big of a swell behind that. What is that? Is that 5/8 of an inch? Yeah, that's 5/8 of an inch. So I'll get this, and if I had a lathe, it'd be quick work. I'd just chuck it up and turn that down to 5/8, but I'll use my draw knife on that. And then it's somewhat oval, but I like a little bit of a more defined handle here. So I'll be taking some off of these two sides of the handle. I'll cut the length after I get everything else set. All right, enough talking, get back to action. There's a hard shoulder here. I'm going to take a round file and clean that up some. It really shouldn't be a hard corner there. If anything, this should have a taper on it so that it helps compress the wood, doesn't cut into the wood there when you set it. It does look like it's tapered correctly, and what I mean by that is it should be wider at the top than at the bottom, so that when you drive a wedge in there, it's more bulk at the top and it can't slide off. Yeah, I think we're pretty good there. Let me line it up here with the oval. And I'll look down the handle there. It looks like it's on there pretty straight. And I'm going to thin this handle out just a little bit here. We're getting close. I think I like it. And I like where this swell starts here, because if you choke up on it, that's about the right spot. Let me put this on there and get a feel for it. And I'm just looking down here to make sure I'm still aligned. I could take a little bit off one side or the other if I needed to true it up, but I think I'm in pretty good shape. I've got this shoulder up a little bit further. I need to take a little bit there. Yeah, I think so when I hold it this way, this face is a little bit out of parallel with the handle. So to fix that, I need to remove a little bit of shoulder back here so this head could sit down a little bit further that way. I may just be able to adjust it on the fly here. Oh, that's all it needed. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I won't take you long for all of it. I'm just gonna take, and I'm gonna sand this down using some progressively finer sandpaper that'll clean this handle all up. And then I'm gonna chamfer that opening there for the handle in the hammerhead. And then I'm gonna cut this groove here. Normally, you would cut that, you know, I'm gonna cut it the correct way because I'll be removing enough of this where you won't see this on there, but I'll cut a groove in here for a wedge. Yeah. I'll be back in just a little bit when I get this handle cleaned up. I'll have the groove cut in there. And just for you, I'll cut down to about here in that handle, and then the wedge will go in there to set that. So I've cut my kerf to set the handle, and then I took off that hard edge there, made that tapered so it would set properly. Let's see which way is forward here. I think that's the way forward. One's a little aligned a little bit better here. So once you get it lined up, the proper way to set this is to drive the handle into the head. typically you can just hold this and drive it, but I don't have this quite as tight as it normally is. But you can see I've got it set on it pretty well, and I'm just going to look and make sure that these flat cheeks are lined up. So when you grab a hold of the hammer, that the hammer head is set properly to the surface. If you have the handle twisted, it might be more like this when the handle's up and down. But that seems about right. So the next thing I need to do is to drive a wedge in here, and that will spread out and fill in this gap around here when I do that. So let's see if we can get this started. That should do it. I think I'm bottomed out there. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'll come back and we'll trim this close to the top. All right, so we are ready to trim this off now. Let me see here, get the right angle. That head's kind of in the way. Just using my coping saw here for this. If you can see, it's tight this way. There's a little bit of space that way. All right, so now that we have it cut off that way, you'll see it's tight on the shoulder here and here. There's a little bit of space here and a little bit of space there. This metal wedge then is driven in, and that is going to put pressure both ways on that handle head there to fill that gap. And I don't know what the proper size is. When I do it, I typically end up splitting this. I see other people that don't. In other words, the handle will crack a little bit that way, but if you're going to fill those two areas, you kind of have to do that. So let me get this started here. See if we can do this out christening my new hammer. Gonna be like that. I'm gonna move back a little bit here in the middle of this so I'm not out here in this corner. You can see there was a little bit of glue there. It squeezed out when it filled in those two areas there. That head is on there permanently. I guess it's not permanent. You can drive that wedge back out, and you can maybe drive that out of there. And then I'm going to take this hard edge off around here. So I've got a little bit of boiled linseed oil here. I'm not sure if it's hickory or not. It seems a little finer grained than hickory, but it might be hickory. And I just use boiled linseed oil. It doesn't need to have varnish on it. And someone asked how often I use boiled linseed oil on my tool handles. And on a new handle, I'll put a light coat on once a day for probably about the first week. And then once a week for the first month. And then typically once a month for the first year. And after that, I just put a light coat on each year, and I'll go through and do them all at the same time. So while I've got my glove in this boiled linseed oil, I'll grab my other wooden handle ones here and apply it there. And I don't know that it's a normal use for boiled linseed oil, but I use it on this metal here, not on the polished side, but on the metal where the where it's this rough surface here. Let me change the glove to the other hand. I'll use it on this metal here. If I get some on the polish, I'll clean it off of there with some denatured alcohol. But I like the finish that it gives to the metal. Helps protect it from rusting. This is a workbench tool. It's not out in the weather tool. So the chance it's going to spend a lot of time rusting is probably small. But you end up in some environments in the United States are more prone to rust than others. So that will help give it some protection there. And if you're in an area that has lots of humidity or coastal areas with salt, then you may want to give your tools a rub down with the oil if they're going to sit for an extended period of time as well, just to give them a little bit of extra protection. So I'll go ahead and finish up coat of oil on here, and we will come back tomorrow when I'm getting ready to put the second coat of oil on, and we'll take a look and see how our tool's doing. And so once the boiled linseed oil's been on that metal for a little bit, I'll wipe that off. And I'll do that a couple of times. But it doesn't obviously soak into the metal, so I don't want to leave a sticky residue. If you put too much boiled linseed oil on a handle and leave it that way, it can get sticky instead of, more of a varnish-like feel to it. Well, there you go. I think it turned out really nice. A big transformation from where it started. It will provide years of use on the leather bench and hopefully bring a little joy to using it. I know, it's just a hammer, but I tell you what, a nice tool is pretty handy to have. I'll put a little before and after, one more tease of what the two of them look like. Here's this one. So what'd you think? I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna wrap up there. I appreciate you taking time to be with me in the shop today. Please like, share, and subscribe. But more importantly, I hope you have a great day.